When I stood in my kitchen 3 years into my marriage, holding a voice recorder in my trembling hand, I never imagined it would come to this. The woman who had welcomed me into her family with open arms, who had spent weeks perfecting my wedding cake with delicate sugar roses and vanilla buttercream, was the same woman whose voice now echoed through that tiny device, cold and calculated, saying things that made my blood run ice cold. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began, because every story of betrayal starts with trust. Every story of poison starts with something that tastes sweet. My name is Rebecca, and for the longest time, I thought I had won the lottery when I married Daniel Morrison. Not just because he was kind, hardworking, and made me laugh until my sides hurt, but because his mother, Patricia, seemed like the mother I had always wished for. My own mother had passed when I was 16, and my father remarried quickly to a woman who made it clear I was just a reminder of his past. So when Patricia hugged me at our first meeting and said, "Welcome to our family, sweetheart," I felt something inside me heal just a little. That first meeting was at their home in suburban Cleveland, a beautiful colonial-style house with a wraparound porch and hydrangeas blooming in neat rows along the walkway. Patricia answered the door in a floral apron, flour dusting her hands, the smell of fresh bread wafting from the kitchen. She pulled me into an embrace before I could even introduce myself properly. "You must be Rebecca," she said, her voice warm and melodic. "Daniel has told me so much about you. Come in, come in. I have been baking all morning." The house was immaculate. Family photos lined the walls in matching frames, everything coordinated in soft blues and creams. Patricia led me to the kitchen, where a marble island held cooling racks of cinnamon rolls, their frosting still glistening. Daniel's father, Robert, sat at the breakfast nook reading the newspaper, a gentle man with silver hair and kind eyes who stood to shake my hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Rebecca," he said simply, and returned to his paper. Architected emotional narrative arc, from deception through vindication. Good start. I'm establishing the warm, deceptive beginning. Now I need to continue with the normal life setup, showing how Patricia seemed perfect at first. I need to write in words for numbers, symbols, and maintain the emotional, cinematic tone. Let me continue with the wedding preparation and early marriage phases. Patricia insisted I sit while she served me coffee and warm rolls. "Daniel tells me you are a teacher," she said, settling across from me with her own cup. "Elementary school, is that right?" "Yes, 3rd grade," I replied, grateful for her genuine interest. "I love it. The kids at that age are still so curious about everything." "That is wonderful," she smiled. "You know, I wanted to be a teacher once, but then I had Daniel and his sister, and well, being a mother became my calling." She reached across and patted my hand. "Family is everything, Rebecca. Everything." I nodded, feeling the warmth of acceptance wash over me. Here was a woman who valued family the way I did, who understood that commitment and love meant something. Over the next few months, as Daniel and I grew more serious, Patricia became increasingly involved in our lives. She would call me directly, not just Daniel, to chat about recipes or to invite me to go shopping. When Daniel proposed on a snowy December evening, she was the first person he called, and I could hear her joyful crying through the phone. "I am so happy," she kept saying. So happy." The wedding planning began immediately. It was January of 2014, and Patricia insisted on hosting an engagement party at her home. She spent weeks preparing, hiring caterers, arranging flowers, creating a celebration that felt more elaborate than necessary, but undeniably beautiful. During the party, she pulled me aside into her study, a cozy room filled with books and photo albums. "I want to show you something," she said, opening an old leather album. Inside were photos of her own wedding, 42 years earlier. She and Robert looked so young, so hopeful. "Marriage is not always easy, Rebecca," she said, her finger tracing the edge of a photograph. "But with the right foundation, with family support, it can weather any storm." "I believe that too," I told her honestly. She closed the album and looked at me with an intensity that should have been my first warning. "Daniel is my only son, my baby. I raised him to be a good man, a faithful husband. He will take care of you, but you must take care of him too. Promise me you will always put him first." "Of course," I said, not understanding yet what she really meant. The wedding planning consumed the next 8 months. Patricia wanted to be involved in everything, and at first I was grateful. My own father barely acknowledged the wedding, sending a check and saying he would try to make it, but making no real commitment. Patricia filled that void, accompanying me to dress fittings, helping choose flowers, debating invitation fonts with an enthusiasm that felt maternal and loving. But there were small moments, tiny cracks that I explained away. When I chose a dress without telling her first, she went silent for 3 days. Daniel had to mediate, explaining that his mother just felt hurt at being excluded. I apologized profusely, promising to include her in every other decision. She forgave me with a tight smile and a hug that felt just slightly too brief. When I suggested my best friend Kendra be my maid of honor, Patricia gently suggested that Daniel's sister, Michelle, should have that role since she was family. "It would mean so much to her," Patricia said. "And Kendra can still be a bridesmaid, of course." I agreed, not wanting to cause family friction, even though Kendra and I had been inseparable since college. When I mentioned wanting to keep my last name professionally, Patricia looked wounded. "But you will be a Morrison," she said softly. "That is what marriage means, becoming one family." Daniel sided with his mother, and I let it go, telling myself it was not worth the fight. The cake became Patricia's obsession. She was an accomplished baker, having won ribbons at the county fair for years, and she insisted on making our wedding cake herself. "It will be my gift to you both," she declared. "Something made with love." For 3 months before the wedding, she tested recipes, bringing samples to Sunday dinners, adjusting frosting techniques, perfecting sugar flowers. The cake became legendary before it even existed, with wedding guests asking about Patricia's famous cake in their RSVPs. I was touched by her dedication, by the hours she poured into creating something special for us. The wedding day itself was perfect. September weather, golden and mild. The ceremony was held at a historic church downtown. The reception at a country club with soaring ceilings and chandeliers. I walked down the aisle on my father's reluctant arm, his new wife beside him in the front pew, looking bored. But when I saw Daniel waiting for me, and Patricia in the front row dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief, I felt surrounded by love. The cake was magnificent. 4 tiers of vanilla and champagne cake with buttercream frosting, decorated with intricate sugar roses in blush pink and cream. Patricia had outdone herself. When we cut it, she stood right behind us, directing the photographer, making sure every angle was captured. "This is the foundation of your marriage," she whispered to us as we fed each other small bites. "Sweet and strong, remember that." We honeymooned in Hawaii for 2 weeks, a gift from my father who seemed relieved to discharge his parental duty with money rather than presents. When we returned, Daniel and I moved into a small starter home about 15 minutes from his parents. It was a charming bungalow with a front porch and a backyard big enough for the children we hoped to have someday. Patricia helped us settle in. She arrived the day after we returned, before we had even unpacked, with boxes of kitchen supplies and home-cooked meals for the freezer. "You will be too tired to cook while you are settling in," she explained, stocking our refrigerator with casseroles and soups. She had a key made for herself that week. "Just in case of emergencies," she said. "Every mother should have a key to her son's home." I should have said no. I should have understood what that key represented. But I was 27 years old, newly married, and desperate for the maternal approval I had been missing for over a decade. So I smiled and thanked her, and told Daniel how lucky we were to have such a caring mother. Those first few months of marriage were happy. Daniel worked as an architect at a firm downtown, leaving early and returning by 6 each evening. I taught during the school year and used summers to plan lessons and enjoy the freedom. We fell into comfortable routines. Coffee together each morning, dinner at his parents' house every Sunday, quiet evenings watching television or reading on our small porch. Patricia called me every day. Sometimes it was to share a recipe or ask about my day. Other times, it was to remind me about something Daniel liked or needed. "He prefers his shirts folded, not hung," she would say. "He gets headaches if he does not eat by 7:30. He needs 8 hours of sleep to function well." I appreciated the guidance at first. I wanted to be a good wife, and who better to teach me than the woman who had raised him? But the calls became more frequent. 3 times a day, then 4. She would stop by unannounced, using her key to let herself in even when we were not home. I would come back from running errands to find her in my kitchen, reorganizing my cabinets or switching my dish soap for a brand she preferred. "The one you had was too harsh," she would explain. "It will damage your dishes over time." Daniel thought it was sweet. "She just wants to help," he said when I gently suggested we ask her to call before visiting. "She is excited to have you as part of the family." By winter, 6 months into our marriage, the pattern had solidified. Patricia was present in every aspect of our lives, offering opinions on everything from what color towels we should buy to what time we should go to bed. She criticized small things with a smile, suggestions wrapped in concern. "You are not cooking enough vegetables for Daniel. He needs proper nutrition. This house is starting to look cluttered, dear. A clean home is a happy home. You should wear more makeup when Daniel comes home from work. Men appreciate when their wives make an effort." I told myself she meant well, that she was just old-fashioned, just trying to help. The first real crack appeared in February of 2015. My friend Kendra called, upset because I had missed her birthday dinner. I had no idea what she was talking about. "I texted you 3 times, she said, her voice tight with hurt. "You never responded." I checked my phone, confused. There were no texts from Kendra. We went back and forth until she finally sent me screenshots of the messages she had sent and the responses she had received. Messages that said I was too busy with my new marriage to maintain old friendships, that I needed space to focus on being a wife. I felt sick reading them. "Kendra, I never sent these. I never saw your texts." "Then who did?" she asked, but her voice said she did not believe me. I showed Daniel that evening, my hands shaking. "Someone is sending messages from my phone. This is crazy." I would never say these things to Kendra. He examined the screenshots, frowning. "Maybe your phone glitched, or you sent them and forgot." I would not forget telling my best friend I do not want to see her anymore, I said, frustration rising. Okay, he soothed. "Maybe your phone was hacked. Change your passwords, and I am sure it will be fine." I changed every password that night, but a seed of doubt had been planted, small and dark, in the back of my mind. 2 weeks later, my supervisor at school pulled me aside. "Rebecca, I need to talk to you about the email you sent last night." My stomach dropped. "What email?" She looked confused. "The one about needing to reduce your class load next year because of family planning. You said you and your husband are trying for a baby, and you want to prepare to eventually stay home." I felt the blood drain from my face. "I never sent that. I am not trying to get pregnant right now, and I have never said I want to quit teaching." My supervisor, Mrs. Chen, studied me carefully. "The email came from your school account. Are you saying someone else accessed it?" "I do not know how, but yes. I would never send that without talking to you in person first." She was skeptical. I could see it in her eyes. "I will need you to file a security report with IT. This is serious, Rebecca. Your account showing this kind of unauthorized access." The IT department found nothing. No evidence of hacking, no suspicious logins. The email had been sent from my laptop at home during evening hours when I was supposedly using it. But I had no memory of writing it, no drafts in my sent folder that I had composed and forgotten about. I started to feel crazy. Was I forgetting things? Was the stress of marriage affecting my memory? Patricia was sympathetic when I mentioned it during Sunday dinner. "Oh, honey, you have been under so much stress," she said, rubbing my back in small circles. "Teaching is demanding, and now you have a household to run. Maybe you just need to slow down, focus on the important things." "But I love teaching," I protested. "I do not want to quit." "Of course not right now," she agreed smoothly. "But eventually, when you and Daniel start a family, you will want to be home with your babies. Like I was with Daniel and Michelle. A mother's place is with her children." Daniel nodded along, not seeing the way his mother was planting seeds, watering them with concern and tradition. More things began to happen. Small things that added up. My birth control pills went missing from my bathroom cabinet. I found them a week later in the back of the linen closet, though I had no memory of moving them. I missed 3 days of pills during that week, which stressed me immensely. A package I ordered online never arrived, though the tracking showed it had been delivered. Patricia stopped by that afternoon with a similar item. "I saw this and thought of you," she said, handing me a scarf almost identical to the one I had ordered. "I hope you like it." My car developed problems, the battery dying repeatedly. Daniel's father checked it and said, "Someone must have been leaving the dome light on," but I was meticulous about checking the lights. My phone died constantly, the battery draining even when I was not using it. I took it to the store, and they found dozens of apps running in the background, apps I had not downloaded. When they removed them, they said someone with access to my phone must have installed them. I began to feel watched, paranoid. I stopped confiding in Kendra because I was not sure if my messages were really mine. I became quieter at Sunday dinners, observing rather than participating. Patricia noticed, of course. "You seem withdrawn lately, Rebecca," she commented one evening while helping me dry dishes. Daniel and his father were outside looking at the lawnmower. "Is everything okay with you and Daniel?" "Everything is fine," I said, forcing a smile. She touched my arm gently. "You know you can talk to me. I am here for you, whatever you need." But as she said it, I saw something flicker in her eyes, something that did not match her concerned tone. It was there and gone so quickly I thought I imagined it. A coldness, a calculation. That night, lying next to Daniel in our bed, I asked him something I had been wondering. "Does your mom have the password to your phone?" He was drowsy, half asleep. "Oh yeah? She set up my new phone last year. Why?" "Does she have mine?" "I do not know. Maybe? She helped you transfer everything when you upgraded last summer, remember?" I did remember. She had been so helpful, spending an hour, making sure all my photos and contacts transferred properly. She had been alone with both our phones during that process. The pieces were starting to form a picture, but it was a picture so ugly, so unbelievable, that I could not let myself see it fully. Not yet. Spring came, and with it, another incident. My best friend from college, Lauren, sent me a long email saying she was hurt I had blocked her on social media and asked what she had done to offend me. I checked immediately and found that I had indeed blocked her, along with several other friends from my past. I unblocked everyone and sent frantic apologies, but the damage was done. They thought I had become a different person, isolated and cold. I started documenting everything. I began keeping a notebook in my car where I would write down strange occurrences, dates, times, what happened, who was present. The list grew longer each week. One Saturday in May, I came home from grocery shopping to find Patricia in my bedroom. Not in the kitchen or living room where she sometimes waited for us, but in my bedroom, standing at my dresser with the drawers open. "Patricia, what are you doing?" She turned, completely calm. "Oh, Rebecca. I was just putting away the laundry I did for you. I noticed your hamper was full when I stopped by this morning, so I took it home and washed everything." I had not asked her to do my laundry. I had not even known she had been in the house that morning. "You were here this morning?" "Just briefly. I brought over that soup I promised Daniel. You two are so busy. I wanted to help." She smiled at me, warm and maternal, but I could not shake the image of her standing at my dresser, going through my personal things. "Thank you," I managed. "But really, you do not need to do my laundry. I can handle it." "Nonsense." She waved away my protest. "What are mothers for?" After she left, I checked my dresser drawers. Everything seemed normal, but I could not prove what had or had not been disturbed. I felt violated, but when I mentioned it to Daniel that evening, he brushed it off. "She was trying to be helpful, Becca. I know she can be a bit much sometimes, but her heart is in the right place." "She was going through my dresser, Daniel. My private things." "She was putting away clothes," he corrected gently. "You are reading too much into this. My mom loves you. She is just trying to bond with you the way she wishes she could have with her own mother-in-law." I wanted to scream. Instead, I went quiet, swallowing my concerns because every time I raised them, I was the one who seemed unreasonable. The breakthrough came in late June, almost 2 years into our marriage. I had started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Hoffman, because the stress was becoming unbearable. I felt isolated, paranoid, and increasingly uncertain about my own memory and judgment. Dr. Hoffman was in her 50s, calm and observant, and she did not immediately dismiss my concerns the way Daniel did. "These incidents you are describing," she said during our 4th session, "they follow a pattern. Someone is isolating you from your support system while making you doubt your own perceptions. This is a form of psychological abuse called gaslighting." Hearing it named was both terrifying and validating. But why would anyone do that to me? What have I done? "It is not about what you have done," Dr. Hoffman explained carefully. "It is about control. Someone perceives you as a threat to their relationship with Daniel, and they are systematically removing your ability to be independent or credible." I thought about Patricia's key, her constant presence, her involvement in every aspect of our lives. But she was his mother. Mothers did not do this to their sons' wives. Did they? Dr. Hoffman gave me homework. Start documenting everything with timestamps and evidence. Take screenshots of messages before they could be deleted. Record conversations when I felt they might be important. Protect my passwords and my phone. I felt like a spy in my own life. The evidence gathering took 3 weeks, but what I found was damning. I installed a password manager that Patricia could not access and changed everything. I set up a separate email account she did not know about. I started backing up my phone to a cloud service that required fingerprint authentication. And then I waited. It did not take long. Within days, I received a call from Daniel's sister, Michelle, angry about a text message I had supposedly sent her, criticizing her parenting and saying cruel things about her children. I asked her to forward it to my secret email address. The message had come from my number, but I had not sent it. I checked my phone records through my carrier's website using my new secure login. The message had been sent from my phone, but during a time when I had been in a staff meeting at school with a dozen witnesses. My phone had been in my purse, locked in my classroom drawer. Unless someone had a way to access my phone remotely, or had cloned my SIM card, or had my old passwords, and was still using them somewhere. I made an appointment with a phone security expert recommended by Dr. Hoffman, a quiet man named Marcus, who ran a small tech shop. He examined my phone thoroughly, and what he found made my blood run cold. "You have spyware installed," he said, showing me a hidden app running in the background. "Someone can see everything you do on this phone, your texts, your calls, your location, your photos. They can even activate your camera and microphone remotely." "How?" My voice came out as a whisper. "How did this get on my phone?" "Someone with physical access to your phone would need about 5 minutes to install it. The app hides itself and runs silently. Most people never know it is there." Patricia had helped me set up my phone. She had been alone with it for over an hour. "Can you see who installed it, where the information is being sent?" Marcus spent another 30 minutes digging through the code. Finally, he pulled up an email address associated with the spyware account. It was Patricia's email, her name right there in black and white. I sat in Marcus's small shop, staring at that email address, and felt something inside me shatter. All those times I thought I was going crazy, all those missing messages and mysterious emails, all those moments when she seemed to know things she should not have known. She had been watching, listening, controlling. "I need you to leave the spyware installed," I told Marcus. "But I need you to show me how to tell if she is actively monitoring me, and I need you to set up my new phone so she cannot access it." He understood immediately. "You need evidence." I need evidence. Over the next week, I used my compromised phone to send false information, leading Patricia to believe I was planning a surprise party for Daniel's birthday. Meanwhile, on my secure phone, I coordinated with Dr. Hoffman and began carefully documenting every manipulation. I set up a hidden camera in my living room, disguised as a decorative clock on the mantel. Dr. Hoffman had suggested it, and though it felt extreme, I needed proof of what happened when Patricia thought she was alone in my house. The camera caught her 3 times in 1 week, letting herself in with her key while Daniel and I were at work. She went through my mail, opened my laptop, tried various passwords. She stood in front of my refrigerator reading my calendar, photographing it with her phone. She went into my bedroom and looked through my nightstand drawers, examining my birth control pills, my journal, my personal papers. But the most damning footage came on a Thursday afternoon. I had deliberately left my phone at home that day, telling Patricia the night before that I was leaving it to charge because the battery was dying so quickly. I watched later as she entered my house, picked up my phone, and spent 20 minutes scrolling through it, reading my messages to Daniel, checking my email, examining my photos. She even composed a message to my father, typing quickly. I could not see what it said on the footage, but I checked my sent messages later that day and found a hostile text telling him not to contact me anymore, that I was done with him and his new wife. My father had responded with a simple, "Fine, goodbye." He had not tried to reach out since. I cried watching that footage. Not because I was close with my father, but because Patricia had permanently severed what little connection remained. She had cut me off from everyone, piece by piece, isolating me until I had no one but her family. I spent a weekend creating a comprehensive document. Screenshots, phone records, camera footage, documentation from the phone expert, a timeline of every incident. I included statements from Kendra, Lauren, Michelle, even my supervisor at school. I wrote everything down in clinical detail, emotions set aside, just facts and evidence. Then I made copies. One for me, one for Daniel, one for a lawyer I consulted on Monday morning. The lawyer, Ms. Patricia Chen, no relation to my supervisor, was a family law attorney in her late 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed my evidence for over an hour, making notes, asking questions. "This is stalking," she said finally. "Electronic surveillance, harassment, possibly identity theft, depending on how we present the email incidents. You have excellent documentation. What can I do with it?" "Several options. You can file for a restraining order. You can press charges. You can use this as leverage if you decide to separate from your husband and she tries to interfere with custody or property division." She paused. "But first, you need to tell your husband. This is his mother. That conversation will determine everything else." I scheduled that conversation for Sunday evening, after dinner at his parents' house. I needed to do it on neutral ground, at our home, where I felt safest. Sunday dinner was torture. Patricia was especially attentive, asking about my week, complimenting my dress, serving me extra portions of pot roast. "You are looking thin, dear," she said with concern. "You need to eat more." I smiled and thanked her, playing my role one last time. When Daniel and I got home that evening, I asked him to sit down. I had my laptop ready, my folder of evidence, my secure phone. "I need to show you something," I began. "And I need you to watch and listen without interrupting until I am finished." He looked confused, but nodded. "Okay." I started with the phone records, showing him messages sent from my number that I had not written. Then the spyware report from Marcus, showing his mother's email attached to the surveillance app. His face paled, but he stayed quiet. Next, I showed him the camera footage. His mother entering our home, going through our things, reading my messages, typing texts and emails from my phone. The color drained completely from his face. "This cannot be real," he whispered. "My mother would not." "There is more," I said, and showed him everything. The blocked social media contacts, the intercepted packages, the manipulated birth control pills that I'd photographed before putting them back in their proper place. Finally, I showed him the most painful part, a recording I had made the previous day. I had gone to visit Patricia under the guise of learning her sugar rose technique for a cake I was supposedly making. I had worn a recording device, something else the lawyer had helped me obtain legally. On the recording, after I left the room to use the bathroom, Patricia's voice could be heard clearly talking to Daniel's father. "She is becoming suspicious. I saw it in her eyes today. We may need to accelerate the timeline." "What timeline?" Robert asked, sounding tired. "Daniel needs to know the truth about her instability before she poisons him against us completely. The emails to her supervisor, the erratic messages to friends, her own father cutting her off. It is all building a picture. When she finally has a breakdown, we will be there to help him through it. Patricia, I do not think—" "You never think," Patricia snapped. "That is why I handle these things. Rebecca is not good enough for our son. She does not have the right family, the right background, the right priorities. Once she is gone, Daniel can find someone suitable. Someone who understands what it means to be a Morrison. There was a long silence on the recording. Then Robert spoke, his voice heavy. You are going too far. This is not right. This is a mother's love, Patricia replied coldly. You would not understand. I stopped the playback. Daniel sat frozen, his hands gripping his knees, staring at nothing. Daniel, I said softly, your mother has been systematically destroying my credibility, my relationships, my reputation for 2 years. She has been building a case to make me look unstable so that when she finally pushes me to a breaking point, everyone will believe I was the problem all along. She wants me gone, and she has been willing to break me to make it happen. He looked at me, and I saw tears streaming down his face. I did not know. Becca, I swear to you, I did not know. I know you did not. But you also did not believe me when I told you something was wrong. You defended her every time I raised a concern. You told me I was being paranoid, oversensitive, stressed. I was wrong. His voice cracked. I was so wrong. I should have listened. I should have protected you. We sat there in our living room, the house his mother had helped us choose, surrounded by wedding gifts she had selected, and faced the truth of what his family had done. What do you want to do? He asked finally. I had thought about this for days. I want her out of our lives. Completely. No more key to our house. No more Sunday dinners. No more phone calls. I want you to confront her with me, and I want her to admit what she has done. And then I want her gone. What if she does not admit it? What if she denies everything? Then I file charges, I get a restraining order, and I let her explain to the police why her email is linked to spyware on my phone. Daniel nodded slowly. I will call her right now. We will meet tomorrow. No, I said firmly. We do this on our terms, in our time. I need to be ready. We need a plan. We spent that night making a plan. Daniel called his sister, who came over immediately. When we showed Michelle the evidence, she started crying. I thought I was going crazy too, she admitted. After I had my second baby, Mom started criticizing everything I did. She said I was not bonding properly with the baby, that I needed her help constantly. She tried to get Brian to convince me to let her move in with us temporarily. When we said no, she started telling people I had postpartum depression and was not capable of caring for my own children. The three of us sat together, comparing notes, realizing how long Patricia had been doing this, how many relationships she had damaged, how many lives she had manipulated. Michelle called her husband, and he came over too. By midnight, we had a united front and a plan. We arranged the confrontation for the following Saturday, not at Patricia's house where she would feel most powerful, but at our home, on our territory. We invited just Patricia and Robert, telling them we had something important to discuss. I was terrified that morning. Dr. Hoffman had warned me that confronting someone like Patricia could be dangerous, that people who seek that level of control do not give it up easily. But I also knew I could not heal until this truth was spoken out loud, witnessed, and acknowledged. Patricia arrived with a homemade pie, smiling as always. Apple crumb, she announced. Your favorite, Daniel. We sat in the living room. Daniel had removed the hidden camera, but set up his phone to record audio, legally, with everyone present able to see it was recording. Mom, Dad, we need to talk about some things that have been happening, he began. Patricia's smile faltered slightly. What things, honey? Daniel looked at me, and I pulled out my laptop. Patricia, I need to show you something. I turned the screen to face her and played the footage of her end. Our house, going through my phone. She watched for maybe 10 seconds before her face went completely blank. Not surprised, not ashamed, just blank. It was eerie seeing that mask drop away. "You put a camera in your own home?" she asked coolly. "That seems paranoid, Rebecca." "You installed spyware on my phone," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "You have been reading my messages, sending emails and texts pretending to be me, sabotaging my relationships for 2 years? That is absurd. I would never." "Mom," Daniel's voice cut through her denial. "We have proof. Phone records, footage, the spyware with your email attached. We have recordings of you admitting what you were doing." Robert sat forward, his head in his hands. "Patricia, what have you done?" She turned to her husband, then to her son, and I watched her make a calculation. She could deny everything and look foolish, or she could pivot. She chose to pivot. "I was protecting you," she said to Daniel, her voice suddenly thick with emotion. "She was not right for you from the beginning. I tried to tell you, but you would not listen. She does not come from a good family. She has no mother to teach her how to be a proper wife. She is keeping you from your full potential." "Keeping him from his potential?" I repeated, incredulous. "By teaching 3rd grade and loving your son?" "You are not strong enough to be a Morrison," Patricia said, dropping any pretense of kindness. "You are always going to fail. I just helped speed up the inevitable. Better to find out now than after you ruined Daniel's life." Michelle had entered quietly during this conversation, standing in the doorway. "You did the same thing to me," she said. "Did not you, Mom? When Brian and I got married, you tried to convince him I was mentally unstable. You told his mother I had been hospitalized for psychiatric issues in college, which was a complete lie." Patricia's eyes flickered to her daughter. "That is not the same. You were struggling. I was trying to help." "You were trying to control," Michelle corrected. "You could not stand that your children had partners who came before you." Robert finally spoke, his voice heavy. "How long, Patricia? How long have you been doing this?" Patricia stood up, smoothing her skirt. "I have done what any mother would do to protect her children. If that makes me wrong, then I am wrong, but I will not apologize for loving my son." "This is not love," Daniel said, standing to face her. "This is manipulation. This is abuse. You tried to destroy my wife's life, her reputation, her sanity. You violated her privacy, isolated her from everyone who cared about her, and you did it all while pretending to care about her. That is not love, Mom. That is cruelty." Patricia's face hardened. "So you are choosing her over your own mother. After everything I have done for you, every sacrifice I made raising you, this is how you repay me." "You need to leave," Daniel said quietly, "and you need to return your key to our house. You are not welcome here anymore." "Daniel." "Now, Mom." Patricia stared at her son for a long moment. Then she opened her purse, pulled out her keyring, and slowly removed our house key. She set it on the coffee table with a deliberate click. "You will regret this," she said, looking directly at me. "Both of you. When your marriage falls apart without my guidance, do not come crying to me." "We will not," I said firmly. Patricia turned and walked out. Robert remained sitting, looking between his children. "I did not know the extent of it," he said finally. "I knew she was intense about you both, but I did not know she was doing all of this." "Did you try to stop her?" Michelle asked. "I should have," Robert admitted. "I should have done more. I am sorry, to both of you and your spouses." He stood, moving like a man much older than his 68 years. I need to deal with this, with her. Please, give me some time. He left without waiting for an answer. After they were gone, the four of us sat in stunned silence. Michelle spoke first. What do we do now? We file for restraining orders, I said. Both of us. And we make it clear to anyone who asks exactly why we are doing it. No more protecting her reputation while she destroys ours. We filed the paperwork on Monday. By Wednesday, the word had spread through their church community, the neighborhood, the family. Patricia had been a pillar of that community for 40 years, known for her volunteer work, her baking, her seemingly perfect family. The truth was a shockwave. Some people did not believe it at first, but when Michelle and I both came forward with documentation, when we filed official restraining orders, when other women began coming forward with their own stories of Patricia's manipulation and control, the truth became impossible to deny. It turned out we were not the only ones. 2 other women from the church had daughters-in-law with similar stories. Patricia had a pattern, a history of destroying relationships she perceived as threats to her control over her children. None of them had ever spoken up before because they thought they were alone, thought they were crazy, thought no one would believe them. Now, they had proof. Now they had witnesses. Now they had strength in numbers. The church quietly asked Patricia to step down from her volunteer positions. The county fair rescinded her Lifetime Achievement Award for baking after the full scope of her harassment came to light. Robert moved into a separate bedroom and began divorce proceedings within a month. Patricia tried to fight back, hiring a lawyer, claiming we were the ones who were unstable, that we had conspired against her. But the evidence was overwhelming. The spyware, the recordings, the testimony of multiple victims. Her lawyer advised her to accept the restraining orders and move on. She never apologized, not once. Healing was not quick or easy. The damage Patricia had done took years to repair. I had to rebuild relationships with Kendra, Lauren, and others who had thought I had abandoned them. I had to repair my reputation at school, showing my supervisor and colleagues that the concerning emails had not come from my intentions. I had to reconnect with my father, explaining what had really happened, though that relationship remained distant and strained. Daniel struggled with enormous guilt and grief. He had lost his mother, not to death, but to the realization that the woman who raised him was capable of cruelty he had never imagined. He started therapy with his own counselor, working through the complicated emotions of loving someone who had done terrible things. Michelle and I became close, bonding over our shared experiences. We supported each other through the restraining order hearings, through awkward family gatherings where some relatives still sided with Patricia, through the slow process of establishing new boundaries and new family traditions. Daniel and I had to rebuild our marriage from the ground up. The foundation Patricia had claimed to help us build had been poisoned from the start. We went to couples counseling, learning how to communicate better, how to prioritize each other over everyone else, how to spot manipulation before it took root. It took a full year before I felt like myself again, before I could answer my phone without anxiety, before I could trust that my messages were my own, before I stopped looking over my shoulder, waiting for Patricia to find a new way to insert herself into my life. Robert reached out eventually, after his divorce was finalized. He apologized properly, taking responsibility for his years of inaction. I told myself she was just being a concerned mother, he said during a careful lunch meeting with Daniel. But I knew. On some level, I knew it was more than that, and I chose to look away. That makes me complicit. We did not offer easy forgiveness, but we did offer a chance to rebuild slowly. Robert proved himself over time, respecting boundaries, attending therapy himself, doing the hard work of change. Patricia, on the other hand, never changed. She moved to Florida to live near her sister, where she told anyone who would listen that her ungrateful children had abandoned her based on lies and manipulation. Some people believed her version. That was okay. The people who mattered knew the truth. Daniel and I celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary 2 years after the confrontation. We renewed our vows in a small ceremony with just close friends and chosen family. No elaborate cake, no family drama, just 2 people choosing each other again with clear eyes and healed hearts. I went back to teaching 3rd grade with new perspective. When I saw students struggling with difficult home situations, I understood better what they were going through. I became an advocate for children dealing with family trauma, using my own experience to help others find their voice. Michelle and Brian had another baby, a daughter they named Sarah, and this time there was no one criticizing, no one undermining, no one trying to take control. Just parents learning and growing, supported by family who respected their boundaries. I learned important lessons through all of this. I learned that not everyone who calls something love actually understands what love means. I learned that trusting your instincts matters, even when everyone else tells you that you are wrong. I learned that documentation and evidence are crucial when facing someone who rewrites reality. I learned that healing is possible, but requires support, time, and commitment to truth. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from people who poison your life, even if they are family, even if they baked your wedding cake with their own hands. The scars remained, subtle but present. I still checked my phone settings regularly. I still changed my passwords frequently. I still felt a small spike of anxiety when someone called me paranoid or oversensitive. But those were manageable, echoes of trauma, not active wounds. Daniel and I started talking about children of our own. It was a conversation we approached carefully, knowing that parenthood would bring its own challenges, especially given our history. But we also knew we had tools now. Boundaries, communication, therapy, and a commitment to protecting our children from toxic patterns. If we have kids, Daniel said one evening, I want them to know their grandmother's story. Not to shame her, but to teach them about boundaries and healthy relationships. I want them to know they can always tell us when something feels wrong, I added, and that we will believe them. We both knew we could be better than what we had experienced. That was the real victory, not the restraining orders or the public vindication, but the knowledge that we could break cycles and build something healthier. Robert became a present grandfather to Michelle's children and maintained hope that he would have the same relationship with our future children. He respected our boundaries without question, never pushing for more access than we were comfortable giving. He sent holiday cards and occasional emails and slowly, carefully rebuilt trust through consistent respectful behavior. The legal restraining order against Patricia was set for 5 years, renewable if necessary. In that time, she violated it twice, both times sending letters through intermediaries. The first letter was full of blame and vitriol, accusing us of destroying her life. The second, arriving 2 years later, was shorter, almost wistful, wondering if we might reconsider. We did not respond to either one. We simply documented them and filed reports, letting the legal system handle it. Some family members still maintained contact with Patricia, and that was their choice. We did not demand that everyone cut her off, but we also made it clear that anyone who shared information about our lives with her would lose access to us. It was a simple boundary, and most people respected it. Those who did not respect it were removed from our inner circle. The church community, which had initially struggled with the revelation, eventually came to terms with it. Several other women came forward with their own stories of Patricia's manipulation, not as severe as ours, but part of a pattern. The church leadership acknowledged they should have seen the signs earlier and implemented better safeguards for their community. I found unexpected support from other women who had survived toxic in-law relationships. There were online communities, support groups, resources I had never known existed. Sharing my story helped others recognize their own situations and find the courage to speak up. That felt meaningful, turning my pain into purpose. 3 years after the confrontation, I stood in my kitchen making dinner on an ordinary Tuesday evening. Daniel was due home from work any minute. Through the window, I could see our small backyard where we had planted a vegetable garden that spring. The tomatoes were finally starting to ripen, heavy on their vines. My phone rang, and I checked the caller ID instinctively, an old habit I could not quite break. It was Kendra. I answered with a smile, chatting easily about plans for the weekend, about her new job, about my students starting a new school year. This simple moment, this ordinary phone call with a friend, represented everything I had almost lost. Patricia had tried to erase my connections, my identity, my sanity. She had tried to make me small and controllable and dependent. But I had fought back, documented the truth, and reclaimed my life. Was it worth it? The confrontation, the restraining orders, the permanent fracture in Daniel's family? People asked me that sometimes, usually with an implication that maybe I should have tried harder to make peace, to be the bigger person, to forgive and forget. My answer was always the same: yes. It was worth it, because the alternative was letting her continue to abuse me while slowly destroying every other relationship in my life until I had nothing left but her control. That was not peace. That was not family. That was captivity dressed up in sugar roses and buttercream frosting. The wedding cake Patricia baked for us sat at the center of our celebration, beautiful and impressive, photographed and admired. But underneath the artistry was control, possessiveness, and a mother who could not let go. She had tried to poison my life the same way someone might poison a cake. Slowly, sweetly, with something that looked like love, but was actually designed to destroy from the inside out. I survived it. More than survived, I grew stronger, wiser, more aware of what healthy relationships actually looked like. I learned to trust myself again. I learned that love does not require surrendering your autonomy, your privacy, your other relationships. I learned that boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out. They are fences designed to protect what matters most. If you are reading this and recognizing pieces of your own life in my story, please know that you are not crazy. If someone is making you doubt your own memory, isolating you from friends and family, constantly undermining your credibility, invading your privacy, those are not signs of care or concern. Those are signs of abuse, even when they come from someone who claims to love you. Document everything. Change your passwords. Find someone safe to talk to, whether a therapist, a friend, or a support group. Trust your instincts. They are trying to tell you something important. And know that walking away from a toxic person, even a family member, is not failure. It is survival. It is choosing yourself, your peace, your future. It is refusing to let someone else write your story. Daniel came home that Tuesday evening and kissed me hello, asking about my day. We made dinner together, laughing over a story about one of my students. Later, we sat on our back porch watching the sunset, his hand in mine, just existing peacefully in the life we had rebuilt. This was what Patricia could never understand. Real love does not control. It liberates. Real love does not diminish. It amplifies. Real love does not isolate. It connects. The foundation she tried to give us was cracked from the beginning, but the foundation we built ourselves through honesty and therapy and hard-fought boundaries, that foundation was solid. That wedding cake is long gone, eaten and digested and forgotten. But the lesson it taught me remains. Things are not always what they appear. Sometimes the most beautiful gesture hides the ugliest intention. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to take another bite. To anyone who sees themselves in my story, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You deserve relationships built on respect, not control. You deserve to have your boundaries honored, your privacy protected, your reality validated. You deserve a life free from manipulation and gaslighting and constant surveillance. It will not be easy to break free. There will be people who do not understand, who think you are overreacting, who tell you to be grateful for family, no matter how they treat you. Do not listen to them. Listen to yourself. Listen to the part of you that knows something is wrong, even when everyone else is telling you it is fine. And if you are the partner of someone being abused by a parent or in-law, please, please believe them. Do not wait for overwhelming evidence. Do not tell them they are being too sensitive. Do not defend the abuser just because they are family. Stand with your partner. Protect them. Choose them over appeasing a parent who has proven themselves untrustworthy. Daniel carries guilt about the years he did not believe me, the times he defended his mother's behavior, the ways he let her violate our boundaries. I have told him repeatedly that I forgive him, that he was a victim of her manipulation too, but he struggles with it still. If he could go back, he would listen the first time I said something felt wrong. He would trust my instincts over his mother's tears. He would choose our marriage over his mother's approval. That is the message I want to leave you with. Choose the person you committed to. Choose truth over comfort. Choose protecting your loved ones over maintaining false peace. Those choices are hard. They come with consequences, but they are always, always worth it. My name is Rebecca Morrison, and I survived a mother-in-law who tried to poison my life. Not with actual poison, but with manipulation, control, and systematic psychological abuse. I am still here. I am still teaching. I am still married to a man who learned to see clearly and choose wisely. I am still rebuilding, still healing, still growing. And if I can do it, so can you. So I will ask you the same question I ask myself sometimes. On difficult days, when the memories still sting, what would you have done? Would you have seen the signs earlier? Would you have confronted her sooner? Would you have documented everything the way I did, or would you have tried a different approach? More importantly, if you are living this story right now, what are you going to do next? Will you continue accepting the unacceptable? Or will you start documenting, start planning, start protecting yourself? The answer to that question will shape the rest of your life. Choose wisely. Choose yourself. Choose freedom. And remember, a cake is just a cake. It cannot hold a marriage together if the foundation underneath is rotten. Sometimes you have to clear away the sweetness to see the poison beneath. That is my story. That is my truth. I share it in the hope that it helps even one person recognize their own situation and find the courage to act. Thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing. And if you are struggling with something similar, please know You are not alone. You are not crazy, and you deserve so much better.